Well, hello everyone. Our interview today will be conducted by TBW Advisors LLC Chief of Research, Dr. Doreen Galley. Dr. Doreen Galley has 6 degrees, including a Waterloo CS PhD and 8 patents held by IBM, with 2 more pending at Microsoft. She has led significant and measurable changes at IBM, DPWN, Dell, AT&T, and most recently, Microsoft, where she was the platform architect for Azure and CTO in Azure's MCI Get. She was trained as an analyst by Gartner, where she was recognized as an expert in all things data, from ingestion, quality, governance, integration, management, and all forms and analytics, including sensor data. An All-American athlete collegiate runner, Dr. Galley enhanced her formal education with process improvement certifications of Black Belt, Lean Six Sigma, and Pull Thinking, along with technology and network transformation certifications from AT&T. She is a top 25 Women on the Web recipient and a published author with over 200 articles. Her first book, titled Distributed Operation Systems, was published by Prentice Hall in English and Chinese. Her second book, titled Galley's Keys to Success, Optimize Your College Career, is available via online bookstores. Dr. Galley has been an invited speaker at such distinguished venues as Forbes Executive Summit, the CIO Summit, CIO Academy, Grace Hopper, Network Plus Interop Las Vegas, Gartner's Catalyst, as well as the Internet Security Conference. Our guest for the AMA today is known as @CX Creator on all platforms. He was first covered by TBW Advisors at the 2024 Call and Contact Expo. Dennis Wakabayashi, celebrated as the global voice of customer experience, orchestrates international media and properties that bridge continents and cultures, uniting a vast audience of over 180,000 customers experience professionals. His diverse offerings, including the CX T-Show, the CX Hall of Fame, Experience Update Show, and CX in the Wild, present a global perspective of the customer experience industry, featuring renowned guests and leading brands from across the globe. With this expansive platform, Dennis is committed to revealing comprehensive insights and nurturing a worldwide conversation, positioning this network as the premier destination for those eager to influence and comprehend the dynamic realm of customer experience internationally. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Doreen Galley and Dennis Wakabayashi.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much, Lena. I appreciate you. And welcome to Industry Whispers AMA with the voice of customer experience, Dennis Wakabayashi @CX Creator. Thank you so much today for joining us. And thank you to everyone that submitted their questions. If you're not attending, the answer will be in the video on Sunday during the recommended time to post. Are you ready, Dennis?
I think so. As mentioned, this is my first Ask Me Anything ever, so we'll see.
Excellent. So I figured we'd start really easy. I noticed your degree was in advertising. So how did you go from advertising to customer experience?
Well, interestingly enough, I started out doing graffiti in the streets, in the mean streets. I got sort of famous for doing graffiti, and I was doing a piece of graffiti on MTV, and an ad agency saw me doing that, and they commissioned me to do some work at their agency. And I met the CEO who said, "Do you want to get a job here?" And I was, at the time, very excited to take a role there. And I started as an intern. I then went on to be a production artist, a graphic designer, an art director, creative director. So at that time, the career of advertising and marketing still had a path for apprenticing. And I did that until I became vice president of strategy. And I did that through the path of digital. So I had to learn a lot, and I was in a great place to learn a lot.
Excellent. I was thinking there was something in terms of in marketing, you're trying to get people to like your brand, but if the customer experience is horrible, then it doesn't matter what the marketing does. And advertising, there's only so much bad customer experience marketing can overcome. So my guess was wrong.
No, I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think over the years, what we've seen is marketing is part of the experience now.
Right, right.
So I'll give you a perfect example of that, which is the Marvel movies. Are those movies or are they toy commercials?
I understand. I use that technique myself. So what all do you include in customer experience?
Customer experience can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. For everyone who's curious about it, it really means just that. What is the experience that someone has with the brand? Professionals will dissect that into things like customer service or marketing, or could even get into supply chain or delivery. But at the end of the day, it's not any more complicated than you either have an experience with a brand or you don't. And everything that falls under the umbrella, when you have a relationship, a transaction with a company, it's part of the experience.
Excellent. So it definitely includes user experience and the call center experience. And it sounds like brand experience as well.
That's right.
Excellent. Admittedly, I was at Dell when Michael came back to the CEO, and he was very big on improving their customer experience. And I had a team known as GFX, and they did all the frictionless e-commerce for Dell. If it was a line of business, it would have been the second largest in the company. And I asked my engineers when they came back from the executive meeting, I said, Michael wants us to improve customer experience. What do you think your effect is on it? And my team that created the technology for frictionless e-commerce thought they had zero impact on it. So glad I had the conversation, because since it was frictionless e-commerce, the customer would use the tech, buy through the tech would fulfill the order. No human ever touched it. That's why it was frictionless e-commerce, and the customer magically got their product. No human was involved. So the only experience they had was interacting with their code. And so I always wondered, can you actually achieve customer experience if your employees don't know what customer experience is or how they impact it in their role?
Well, deep question there.
Sorry.
The customer experience, how you perceive it, can be from an operational side or from the customer side. The key connective tissue there is the empathy for the experience. If I'm doing user experience and I'm creating it, I have to have a sensitivity for the person on the other side of the computer to do that effectively. And the irony, to your point, if I do that really well, the customer doesn't even know I exist.
Right, exactly. So customer experience is going through a lot of exciting changes right now. What do you think is one of the most exciting things impacting customer experience in 2024?
The most interesting aspect of the industry that people do not talk about much, and because I'm on your show, I want to bring some fresh content to you. The topic that isn't talked about, that isn't trending yet, is customers are being augmented with AI. So much of the industry is talking about agents being augmented with AI, but the reality of it is, just like we have drivers who are augmented with Google Maps everywhere they go, and we don't talk about it, customers now have more AI at their disposal than ever before, and buying patterns and decision making will be drastically changing continuously and becoming more sophisticated every day from today forward.
Excellent. That's fascinating. And you're right. We've probably all used technology and different technologies to impact how we're acting as customers. So great point. Now, I know you are very passionate about standards. ISO declares, that's the International Standards Organization, declares that the benefits of standards are streamlining processes, of course, because everyone's working to a standard, so there's no internal arguments as to what you need to meet that's externally defined. Decreasing waste and internal costs for the same reason, I assume. Increasing the efficiency of R&D because you know everyone's going to use it, it's going to interoperate with the environment. Improving business processes, reducing risk, enabling international expansion, and supporting development of new products and markets. Why are you excited about standards coming to customer experience, and where do you think they could have the most impact?
I'm excited for standardization of the customer experience industry for all of the reasons you just mentioned. There have been a lot of bright minds in the industry who could have made a tremendous positive impact to communities, to countries, to cultures, to customers that were discredited by incumbent leadership in organizations who chose to stay doing things the old way. And standards, as an example, would have built a bridge of communication between the old guard and the new way of thinking. And because that doesn't exist, I feel like a lot of opportunities to proliferate employment around the world or improve the sustainability of our planet or decrease even things like crime or increase patient outcomes are missed because of the complexity and the redundancy within this idea of connecting all of the pieces that a person has with the company. And for those reasons, I think standardizations are something that are needed around the world. And I like that in the Middle East, in EMEA, they are breaking ground there and standardizing a lot of things. And in fact, in Dubai, the government has a thing called the happiness metric, which they hold companies accountable to. And there you see the opportunity for businesses and governments to align around the people and the population of a region. And I think that's pretty interesting.
That's interesting. So the government has a happiness index and the companies need to meet it with their employees?
With their employees and for their customers.
I wonder if they just did a random happiness index, what the score would be at most American companies. My guess is it would miserably fail. I don't think the employee happiness is very much a thought of it in my experience. I always think of it for my teams, but I don't know that that's prevalent in a lot of cultures.
I think it's a good take. Let's unpack that for the audience. Why are people unhappy in their businesses? Just to what we said, the journey of the employee in its alignment with the machine of revenue is not synchronized, and which is okay, but the ability for humans to synchronize that relationship is impeded by the complexity, the momentum of revenue, the gears of finance and the gears of war do not allow for humans to interject themselves to tune the machine, and standards would allow multiple stakeholders with multiple disciplines to tune the operational parts of industry and government faster. And that's why I'm interested in standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, at Microsoft, the big push is for happiness of employees, because in science, the happier person brings all of them to work. And when you bring all of you to work, the skills that you were hired for can actually shine. But if someone's miserable, all of their highly valuable skills you hired them for will actually be not available to the company. And so it would be fantastic if more people adopted, or more countries adopted the happiness index. Are there other call center standards that you've seen in Europe you had mentioned?
You know, I think the International Customer Experience Institute is standardizing employee standards, business practice standards, corporations, and educational standards in Europe and in the Middle East. There are standards taking place everywhere, and it is rolling out around the world. So I believe we'll see them become sort of ubiquitous over the next 5-10 years, maybe
Excellent.
15.
Excellent. So this goes right into our next question. It's on human-centric computing, which you've traveled a lot. So as you're aware, in the EU, human-centric computing is very large. A lot of Americans are not familiar with it. With the evolution of AI and hyper-personalization, the need for humanized engagement is even more apparent. Where should businesses start with humanizing first, internal operationally, or with customer engagement?
So this is an interesting topic about the relationships and the harmony between humans and machines. My real take on this is humans created machines, number one. And as far as we know at this point, no machine has ever created a human. So if I just play that out from a priority perspective, I've got to say that if I take away the machines, I still have humans, but if I take away the humans, I don't have machines. So humans as a priority are still an important factor. When I look at humans inside organizations, I see a couple of very interesting things. Humans plus machines become augmented. There are a number of businesses where employees are allowed to use tools and they're faster, they mix sound better, they create art faster, they write faster, they analyze data faster, all of these things. But then you have a whole nother larger group of companies that are shutting down the use of AI by their employees. So these two universes are fascinating to watch. And what you will see is that companies who use machines to become faster at being smarter, but the second step is taking that smarter and training human agents or managers or leaders, those are the ones. It's the data smarter training. Data smarter training is the step right now that you see across the board. Anyone implementing that is seeing success in this new world of AI and humans.
So clean up your data, use that to empower your internal agents, and then with empowered cleanless inside and empowered agents, that will then address impacting your customers.
Yeah, it's really about just using machines to get smarter and cross-training your humans.
And the best part of it is you need clean data to do it all. Never have you needed digital transformation more than 2024. So customer experience is very different around the world. Americans have one standard when we deal with businesses and we call a call center, we interact with on the internet. And it's very different in extreme if you go to the Middle East. It's very different in Asia. It's very different in South America or Europe. So I'd love to go around the world with you, if you could, and kind of share some of the highlighted differences. For example, what a European expects from the business as opposed to an American. We'll go, that's probably the hardest because it's closest. I mean, are they offended if they get an American accent to agents?
What I would say is I'll approach that a different way. What is fascinating about the cultures and customer experience, a couple of things. One is the traditions and values of the indigenous cultures play a huge role in how they approach customer experience. However, the global economic factors drive a reaction to customer experience that is entirely at the core of what is capable or able to happen. And I'll give you two complete dichotomous examples. In Africa, Africa is, because of in South Africa, as an example, the conversion of the US dollar to the rand is so unfavorable that those CX leaders have to do the same or more with much less money than, let's say, a United States counterpart. Okay. So, and the consumers in Africa are so price conscious, but even more so, more value conscious than almost any other place I've been. And because those customers are so savvy about whether one scoop or two scoops or this location or that location or this flavor or this product, they understand the value of a product so much more than anywhere else. And in that economic landscape, the net result for customer experience is many of your most intelligent, innovative, accurate, and effective customer experience strategies and programs come from that environment. And I'll give you an example. I've traveled the whole world. I've only met one person who actually figured out customer experience attribution, and his name's Clint Payne. He's in South Africa. He figured it out. And he's told me this, and I didn't believe it at first, but I then dug into it, interviewed him, and spent a lot of time with him, like litmus testing this, but he did. But he was in an environment where faking it wasn't going to work. And so innovation comes from that culture. Now, juxtapose against that, I've spent a lot of time with the team at Expo City in Dubai. Expo 2020 was the apex, the pinnacle, figuratively and literally the very best, most incredible customer, human, government, employee experience in the entire world. And now they have a city of the future that exemplifies all of these things. And they have a 6th-century vision, 600-year vision for that city. What happens there when you have the money and the resources and the potential to do whatever? What does that mean for customer experience? And you know what I found there? It breeds bravery. You would think that you could be brave everybody else in the face of adversity, but the bravery in the face of possibility, bravery in the face of the actual unknown is crucial to success. And so in Dubai, you find the most fearless CX people, the most fearless thinkers, the most fearless team players, and they stand on the edge, the frontier of the unknown, faced with the task of creating the next thing. And they do that fearlessly and with a kind of purpose that is unquestionably unique to that part of the world.
That seems quite exciting because they have the resources and it seems like they have the imagination to go for it and make it happen.
Yeah.
So that's got to be interesting. I know because I had seen your videos, for example, at the expo and at the hotels, and I was always wondering, for their citizens, when they call up and they have a problem with the brand, does that same luxurious, spoil you're the customer experience carry over to everyday citizens on everyday customer needs? Or is it only for the tourists or the wealthy?
You might be talking about customer friction, but at places like Expo, they designed and architected an entire city from the desert.
Yep.
So for instance, their customer and human experiences, their buildings are positioned on the land at the latitude and longitude and the direction, so that based on the season and the time of the day, the airflow between the buildings maximizes the temperature for the
Oh, wow.
humans next to it. So these are the kind of experiences that you create when you are at the precipice of the impossible.
Wow. I live in a planned city. Most cities in the United States are not planned at the extent that Las Vegas is. And I have to tell you, you notice it. And as much planning as they put into Las Vegas, it's nothing compared to that innovation city in Dubai. So that's fascinating. Yeah. So even the wind is designed to get a nice breeze and the sun's kept out and everything's optimized. That's fantastic. Minimize commute time for the citizens too, I assume.
So what's you bring up an interesting thing. How many times have we heard in these other cities where there, and you've had them in Vegas, where there's a building where the glass is melting cars or burning people on the street? That is the opposite of in Dubai, where Expo City is building buildings where you're like, I just wish the shade was here right now. I wish I could walk from here to there in the shade at this time of day, but you can. So it's possible, but these are the things that are taking place that you have to be understanding that experiences, human experiences from rich to poor, or from the have to the have nots, or from the easy to the difficult, the hot to the cold, they're a spectrum. And so the entire world, if I could answer your question, the entire world has its unique value. Every place in the world is a touch point. And you have to remember that no matter where you go, there you are.
Exactly. I always used to remind everyone when I was at a number of global organizations that it didn't matter where you went in the world, our customers are there. You know, there is no offshore. Whose shore are they off of?
Yeah.
Right? They're
Thank you.
not a second class citizen. They're just on a different shore than you reside, but it is nothing subordinate or different or less. So I always use global resources. I hate the offshore term completely.
Yeah.
Because like you said, no matter where you go, there you are. So diving into some of your amazing assets, you had the Customer Experience T-Show, the Customer Experience Hall of Fame, Experience Update Show, and the Customer Experience in the Wild. Which is your favorite episode from each? So we'll start with the Customer Experience T-Show. Do you have a favorite episode on the T-Show?
You know,
Do you want
I
to tell
my
us about the T-Show?
the CXT show is really an effort for me to take a number of customer experience influencers and throw them in a room with a cross influencer from a different channel or genre. So I bring influencers in from TikTok or Instagram. So we've had a few. There's my favorite episode of the CXT show was a woman named Aaliyah, who I can't believe I got her to be on our CXT show, but she was a TikTok influencer who spoke about the power of attraction. And for about 6 months, I must have every morning when I woke up and read her feed, I thought it was exactly for me. Perfect example of I thought it was personalized. It hit me. I empathized with it. My bias confirmed it. But there she was talking to a million people. And so we had her on the show to explore why she talks about this. How does the power of attraction work? But all of us talking about the different channels and content and what are we all doing here publicizing all of this content. And it was a very good discussion.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. I don't think I caught that one yet. I'll have to look it up. Thank you. And what about your Customer Experience Hall of Fame?
You know, the Customer Experience Hall of Fame. I wish I could say that I had one favorite. I think what the Customer Experience Hall of Fame has done for me is allow me to consistently recognize and research people who are doing the do in the industry. And I think what my list, if you will, my roundup list does that others do not, which is I do not publish that list as a roundup to create SEO. I don't really do anything with that other than recognize people. So many people don't even know that it exists because I don't use it as a lead magnet or some sort of tool. I actually use it to recognize specific people. And, if I'll be totally honest, I'll tell you how this thing came to be.
Do tell.
There is a very popular, used to be, not as much anymore, controversial CX leader in the world. I like to think of me as the good cop of CX, and he's the bad cop of CX. This guy named Alex Mead, very vocal, outspoken gentleman. He hates lists. He hates the roundup of the people who get like named as influential for no real reason whatsoever. And, you know, and he's rightly so. A lot of people, this is an
You'd
unpopular.
spend
people,
money to get on any good list.
That's right. That was part of what his point was. Is
I had 5 solicitations last month to be on several lists they wanted to recognize me for. Yes.
Yeah. So that was his point, which is they're not really authentic. And so, but anyway, Alex I made one of those lists. I just get the people round me up because they want to leverage, and
Yep.
he called me out on social media and he said, I don't think you are one of the top blah. And I really suspect that you're not. And I welcome the chance to for you to prove it that you really are one of these global leaders. And he called me out essentially. So I was like,
Welcome to challenge.
I was like, I respect this because one, I appreciate what he's doing. He's pointed it incorrectly at me, but the conversation should be had. So I said, let's meet, let's have the conversation. And then as he started to talk to me, he was like, oh, wait a sec, you're really going around the world. You're really actually still consulting on international brands. You're in the trenches. And I was like, Alex,
Right.
not only am I in the trenches, I'm currently working on a Fortune 50 brand, helping 2 lines of their business to this day. And I'm going to the front lines where it's dangerous to interview agents. I care. I'm really doing this. And I think what that did was, I think it helped him calm down because he realized that some of us are actually authentic. And I think it tempered him a little, but I think, helped him understand that his voice needed to be heard. And long story short, the beautiful part about that was he and I agreed that the CX Hall of Fame is not something you could be purchased. You could not buy your way onto it. You could not ask your way onto it. This is a labor of love that me and the producers and we do this to only recognize people that we think are worthy or valuable, or we recognize or we can assess their contribution in some way. And so for that reason, if someone has made it on our version of CX Hall of Fame, they are genuinely an authentic contributor to the communities.
And they moved it forward. Excellent. Oh, that's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. And the experience update.
The CX update, that's just my newsletter. I publish all kinds of different things there. Some people, they pay me to get in on that. But I publish my videos, my podcasts, my stories, discounts, industry events. It's sort of like my newsletter where if there's something valuable that I can disseminate to the communities, I do that there. What's interesting about that is I'm not as regular with that as I should be, and I don't think I don't have a real formula there.
You do it when you need to, not just to keep them busy. Yeah. Which isn't that a better customer experience? I'm the same way. Yeah. When I have something to say, I say it.
Yeah. Fair enough. So you get me.
Yeah. And that's great.
And I think I wanted. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I think you're going to lead up to the thing that I really wanted to talk about is if I had one piece of content that I think everybody should listen to, and I think you're going to ask me about this, is, you know, there's a podcast that not very many people have listened to on CX in the Wild, and it's with a woman named Chandra Tobias. I don't think Chandra had ever done a podcast before. And because of my format of CX in the Wild, I don't target, I'm not a like clout chaser. I'll interview a chauffeur at a valet. I don't,
Yep.
if someone says something that I think is insightful to the community, I want to capture that. I don't
Yep.
care about their titles. Well, I was very early on, and I had a friend, Jim Ayub, who's a big voice in the customer experience industry, and he introduced me to one of his colleagues, Chandra Tobias. And she just started talking, and I was immediately captivated and overwhelmed by her level of articulation and her depth of knowledge about call centers and customer experiences and the industry. And I just said, "Hey, would you mind being on my little podcast no one's ever heard of?" And she looked at Jim, and Jim was like, "It's fine, go do it." And so Chandra said, "I've never been on this podcast, never been on a podcast." I put her on. We had the most authentic conversation because none of us had ever talked like this before. And here's why I think everyone should listen to it. I asked her, with all of her experience, how can a leader, in all your experiences, Chandra, what's the difference between a leader who's successful at implementing and growing and rising in the field of customer experience versus those who don't? I thought she was going to say one thing, but what she did was she actually explained how to do it for anyone to follow, that anyone who listened to it could do it. And it was like giving the class the answer to the
Wow.
final.
That's amazing. So step by step on how you too can be the best customer service agent and rise to run a call center no matter where in the world.
She explained how as a leader you could get budget, win the corporate culture, go on to be successful at delivery, and then rise in the ranks all the way up to the C-suite if you so chose.
Well, I think the first three steps definitely help on that last step.
Yeah, that's true.
So customer experience in the wild, is that your favorite? Was that a customer experience in the wild interview?
That was a CX in the Wild interview, but my favorite, of course, is my YouTube channel because it allows me to travel around the entire world every year. As you know, I'm in the middle of my 2024 world tour, and so I'm very excited to be going to all of these amazing places this year.
So your favorite show to do then is the customer experience in the wild?
My favorite show is CX in the Wild, but my favorite media to do is the YouTube channel.
Excellent, excellent. And how big of a team do you travel with?
You know, that's debatable. Sometimes I've rolled out as deep as 2 people, me and another producer. I think this tour I might have a producer with me. So physically, camera carrying the gear and such, it's normally just me, maybe one other person. But I'd be completely lying or misrepresenting if I didn't say I have a team of 5 producers and 5 other people behind the scenes who coordinate the travel, the meetings, the dates, the hotels, the interviews, everything that happens to make those productions. There's about 10 people who, without them, I'm just the guy who carries the gear, really. It's not.
And they make you look good.
And they make and they're the ones who make it all possible.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have a drone with you when you travel?
No, I don't, and because there's a lot of restrictions around drones.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be kind of difficult internationally because just even in the United States, state to state, city to city, and then when you go international,
I'd be
Because some
terrified.
of the footage at United
Yeah.
Arab Emirates, you had some amazing footage that I thought came from a drone. So did you just borrow one and
Well, so I'll tell you, there drones, no, I didn't. So some of that footage was provided to me, but even in like Expo City, I had to, it was, the city is so safe that I had to, if I had walkie-talkies or I had any radio transmission devices, they had to go through security, the serial numbers and the wavelengths, all of them had to be monitored and brought in. So you cannot have any wired frequencies in certain cities and places that I go for security purposes. So you cannot transmit a signal or receive a signal to your body in any way without, government
what about
level.
Bluetooth?
Uh, you know what? I don't mess around. Like I
I'm
got my
thinking even like my gimbal stick and the camera use Bluetooth to communicate, so that would be an issue.
in that particular case, you would have had to have them registered. And I think in this one, the most stringent situation, all of my equipment had to be inspected and logged. And,
Yeah.
I just didn't walk in with it.
I went into a factory once when I was with AT&T and I had to turn off all my cellular devices. It was a very long wait because the number of cellular devices, because even my laptop was cellular, my phone was cellular, my work phone was cellular, my watch was cellular. So I was sitting there for 5 minutes turning stuff off, but I didn't have to register them. So interesting. That's very interesting. So what is the funniest thing that has ever occurred on one of your trips on customer experience in the wild?
The funniest thing, I could tell you one of the most embarrassing funny things. Well, one is I'm terrified of animals, and I had to ride a camel once that wasn't very happy with me. He was growling. I was terrified. But I'll tell you what was really embarrassing, funny now that I look back at it. I was in a hotel in Dubai, and I lost my wallet, and just a series of embarrassing moments on my part. I lost my wallet. So I walked up to the front desk and I said, "Hey, did somebody turn in a wallet? Because I lost my wallet." And the woman behind the desk says, "You lost your wallet?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Go back to your hotel room. We'll bring it to you." And there's a little bit of an accent, so I'm feeling like she didn't understand me. So I did that thing where I talked more slowly and tried to say, and she said again, "Go back to your hotel room, we'll bring it to you." So I just gave up, and I retraced all my steps, because I went to the gym, and I retraced all my steps into the other here, there, and I went back to the printer where the printing was, and I went over to and then I was that weird, creepy guy where I went back into the breakfast restaurant, going over to tables and like, "I'm sorry, can I just look under? I look under your
Oh
table
no,
real fast?"
I remember about
Very,
your room.
yeah, and I was like very like
Distraught.
embarrassed, bothering people. So, and I go back up to my room. I look all over my room. I come all back down. I'm bothering people. I'm wandering around. Here's the funny part. I decide maybe I had the wrong customer experience. So instead of waiting in line, she's open, but I don't wait in her line. I go wait in this other line. And
Yep.
she's like watching me, and I wait. I finally get to the front, and this guy, I'm like, "Hey, bro, I lost my wallet. Did anybody turn in my wallet at all?" And he said, "You should have just gone back up to your room and somebody would have brought it for you." And I was like, "What?" And so he passes me back over to the girl who's seen me avoid her. And she says, "Dennis, go sit right there in that chair right now. And someone's going to walk over and bring your wallet to you." And I was like, "What?"
The
So
customer experience was so good you didn't understand it.
I sat down, and a guy, this head of security, walks up and says, "Here's your wallet. Open it up. Make sure everything's in it." And I'm like, "Were you about to just go up to my hotel room and hand me my wallet?" He said, "You could have 45 minutes ago just went up to your hotel room and waited for me to bring it to you, but you wandered around the hotel making your embarrassing yourself."
Oh
So
my.
so yeah, that's my most embarrassing funny story. And when I asked him, I said, "How did you do this?" He said, "It was easy. We followed you on camera when you left your room until you lost your wallet, and then we followed the guy who picked the wallet up until he had it, and then we followed it to the security room, and then we went and picked it up and we brought it to you."
Yep. With cameras, it's amazing what you can do. So they
Yeah,
might have a few more cameras than Vegas, possibly.
you get it. It's just like Vegas.
Yep. Yep. It's amazing. Everyone's surprised why all the criminals get caught in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So that definitely is a funny story. And it's a customer experience story on top of that. So the customer experience was so good you couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the scariest thing that ever occurred on a trip? Now, I know you have traveled to some places that are pretty dark and dangerous. So hopefully you're still alive, so this is good.
Well, I have traveled to some scary places and continue to go. As you're alluding to, last year I went to a township called Guguletu in South Africa, where for the last 5 years, every 48 hours, there's been a murder. And there's no police and no services. And I went there to film customer experience stories because that's where they are. And and this year I'm doing a story in post-communist Poland. I have done work in Ukraine, and it was before the war, but there was still war happening there. And so I would say that
Any
I,
close
I've been
calls?
I've been to some places that other people may consider dangerous, but not going to get the stories or doing my job to be the voice of customer experience.
Yeah,
This is what the job calls for.
I understand. But any scary circumstances when you thought you were going to be robbed or held up, or so far so good? Excellent.
Yeah, so far so good.
Excellent. Any food that got you? Get
You
sick on
know,
any food or water?
what's really interesting is I go to these places and I'm one of these people. I work so much that I take protein bars with me and eat in my hotel room, and I very rarely go out and eat, and I don't drink alcohol, and I don't gamble. Like when I'm in Vegas, I don't drink alcohol or gamble or so I'm pretty much just water. I bring a lot of instant coffee with me and protein bars, and that's what I do.
Excellent. That works. Any weird vaccinations? And I ask this because, admittedly, with Dell, when I went to some countries, one case I had to get a live vaccine that had to be kept in the fridge and had to take every other day or such. So when you travel globally, there are different vaccinations than you require when you're staying in the States. Have you had any of those weird vaccines?
I have had quite a few of those weird vaccines, and I think I'm about to get hepatitis again, which is going to be a multi-parter. But I think I've had malaria. Oh, I've had malaria and diphtheria and all of those.
Yep, yep. And you bring your malaria pills. Yep,
Yeah, I think
yep.
I've had a lot when I
I know
went
someone who got malaria. You don't want it. It's like
no
permanent mono. Yep.
when I went to Asia, uh, Thailand and those places, I got a lot of those vaccinations, and I think yeah.
Excellent. Your upcoming tour preview. Fascinated by the no fire, no police. So I'm thinking logistics. How many stops on the upcoming trip?
Oh, I'm gonna enough, but I'm leaving. I'm here going to New York, Curacao, South Africa, Cape Town, Johannesburg, then Frankfurt, Berlin, Poland, Vienna, Switzerland, London, Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and Dubai are just to name a few.
Just to name a few. Do you know how many stops there are?
No, so
You're trying not to count.
no, Doreen, I actually do not know because of the producers. They prepare me. They're like, that when I wake up in the morning, I check WhatsApp and they're like, 6 days to departure. This is what we have to get done today. 5 days to departure. Make sure all this stuff is ready. All right, you got to be at the airport tomorrow. Go to sleep at this time. So I am surrounded by such a great group of humans who are on this journey with me, and they prefer not to be in front of the camera or on the limelight because I want to give them credit. But they really make everything happen. I don't even check my own email.
That's amazing. Have you noticed any really quick connections? I remember once my admin had planned a trip when I was at Deutsche Post, and I flew to Europe from the United States, landed in Berlin, and it seemed like I barely had a bathroom stop and went there, and my train was there already. I'm like, from the United States across Atlantic, it was timed that precise. Couldn't believe it. Have you had those types of schedules?
I've had some weird schedules like that, where I've had to walk like 45 minutes to catch, and I just barely made it. But you know what I find most interesting is the Istanbul in the Turkish airport, Turkish Airlines. If you stay there for more than 4 hours in that, you have more than a 4-hour layover, you can get one of those sleeper rooms in the Turkish Airlines. But if your layover is more than 8 hours, you cannot get one of those rooms. They push you to the hotel. So it's like it's weird when you're traveling how they try to make it work or don't work.
What's your longest flight you've ever had?
I'm about to go back. I'm just getting ready to go again, but every time
28, 29 end to end.
24 hours from here to Cape Town.
Gotcha. And that's all on plane.
You know, I
Or is there a couple stops?
Layover in Istanbul.
I had one of those 29-hour travels where every flight wasn't more than 4 hours, but from start to finish was 29 hours. It was terrible. It was from south of Brazil, and it was like a hopper to from Porto Alegre to Sao Paulo, then to Miami, and then to Dallas, and then to Austin. It was like one of those where it was constant hops, so you couldn't actually catch a sleep. So hopefully they also prepare and protect your sleep for that. How do you deal with the jet lag?
Well,
any tricks?
I work internationally. I get up at 3 a.m. every morning to work and go to the gym. I've been working since 3 a.m. So I don't sleep very much. And I do, I fly because of my partners. They fly me business class. So I sleep on the plane, but I very rarely experience any jet lag.
Excellent. That's fantastic. So you just expect it not to be there and it's not there. I've heard that works. How do the opportunities impact the lives of the agents when you come and visit them?
Well, I think if I'm being thoughtful about that, they don't ever impact the agents' lives as much as I would hope. I'm going back to South Africa right now. On August 2nd, I'm holding a summit with the government and the private sector and the leading BPOs and some leading global companies, technology companies, to continue to build labor opportunities in South Africa. South Africans have the best English of the call center regions. They are the most grateful for the employment, and they're eager to support people. And so I don't want to say that anything I've done has helped people to the extent that it should or it could, but I'm going back again, and I'm going to keep working to impact the lives of agents.
And hopefully the enlightenment and understanding and empathy moves the needle. Okay. Excellent. what's some of the unexpected technology challenges you see with agents around the world? Like obviously, if they're in Europe, United States, or Saudi Arabia, you'd expect to have, good power, good internet. But you go to some places where that's not something you can expect.
Oh, in Africa, the agents all have power backups because they have load shedding. So electricity is not a common thing even in South Africa. In Cape Town, you have rolling electricity. So that's a thing. And I'll tell you, shameless plug for my partner Google Chrome OS. Here's what's interesting. Chrome OS has a technology that it rapidly deploys call center technology on Chromebooks. They have this thing called zero touch enrollment. You can take 100 or 1,000 Chromebooks and deliver it to a place on a map, and 1,000 agents could instantly be activated as a call center. Big promises, but I went and took these Chromebooks and implemented them in a third world country, in a third world type call center in Belize to see if it really worked, and it did. So when you talk about technology, but here's what the human part of this is, the impact of the technology. The agents in this call center who received the Chromebooks with the Chrome OS and the solution, their productivity went up. It was faster and easier, but they received a 10% increase in pay because now they could work from home and they didn't have to pay to come into the city. So technology as a way to provide 10% more income, a 10% raise for a family who could really use it, where that money is transformational.
So they also had less expenses, because if they weren't going in, so they got a raise and had their expenses reduced.
No, the raise was their reduction in expense.
I got you. Okay. Excellent. That's nice. And so work from home is a global phenomenon. It's not just a US desire. Everyone around the world likes to spend time with their family. It's amazing. Right. See, we're not all so different after all. And how did they achieve internet? Are they using a satellite or microwave technology, or what type of technology are you using for their internet connectivity?
There's cable, fiber most places in the world where I'm going anyway. I haven't gone places remote enough where there wasn't fiber underground.
I've lived remote enough in the United States once when I did not have a wired internet connection. So believe it or not, that is actually possible here in this country. So it's called microwave technology. Does not have a cap, where satellite technology does have a data cap. Point of information. What's the most surprising technology solution you've seen in these places? Anything surprising?
The Google Chrome OS for call centers is. I was a disbeliever. I had to spend 2 weeks on the road filming just to prove it to myself.
I understand. I think a lot of people felt that way with generative AI when it first came out. They're kind of like, well, is it? And I had some people I advised had mentioned that their customers accept their technology better now that they have generative AI that they touch. Before they weren't accepting it, even though it had that capability, and they saw it and they seen it, but until they could touch it and realize that it was true, it affected the adoption. So true. We are at the last minute and a half to 2 minutes. So I thought I'd ask you in closing if you have any closing remarks and comments.
I just want to say thank you for having me on my first Ask Me Anything. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure collaborating with you in Las Vegas. And I look forward to collaborating with you as I go around the world. And I'm certain we'll get together again to share more stories.
Excellent. This sounds great, Dennis. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lena Jo, for our introduction. And thank you, everyone who registered and submitted a question. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can see some more content from Dennis and I.
Thanks you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.